We are the boys who grilled up all the meat again, grilled up all the meat again, grilled up all the meat again. We are the boys, grilled up all the meat again, bully boys, hey, bully boys, oh, well, if you wanna have a good time, grill the meat again, grill the meat again, grill the meat again. I wanna catch a devil if you wanna have fun, wanna smell hell, grill the meat again.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first edition of Grilling History here on the History Things podcast. I'm Pat McGuire. This is Parker Russell.
What's up,
We're
everybody?
hanging out in the backyard on a fine mid-Atlantic day.
Oh, yeah.
It is Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, we get together this weekend for two very simple purposes. One, to commemorate the fallen service members of the United States military, as well as to kick off the official summer season. This is usually the first big barbecuing weekend of the summer. Lots of people start their summers with Memorial Day barbecues.
Yeah.
Here in the Mid-Atlantic, Mother Nature is prone to spoiling your Memorial Day weekend. Now, she has shown up today, and we have chosen to persevere, because at the end of the day in the Mid-Atlantic, you really have two choices. You can just you can quit or just accept that it's going to rain on you. So we figured we'll throw up the tent and we'll just keep the show going. So starting it off with some adversity here. So Parker,
Yeah.
we're here today to do two simple things. To make something fun and yummy and delicious here in a casual backyard grilling
That's the hope,
setting.
anyway.
We're also here to tell a story. You know,
Yeah.
we're not just historians cooking meats. That's your thing. You know what I mean? This is sort of just,
I'm a meat historian.
Right, vision basically came from this. We all get together. A lot of us are friends. We socialize when we're not making podcasts or we're speaking at each other's events, things like that. And sometimes what we do is we just end up standing around the grill, sharing a couple beers, doing what we do professionally, just sharing stories with each other. Some of the things we're working on, some of the things that we think are neat. And we figured grilling history would be a great way to kind of get everyone, into a sort of casual setup. Let's make something delicious. We can talk about what we're making, and then we can also, tell a story. So, Parker, it looks like you want to get the show started once again with the unofficial Sad Tree Bark sponsor.
Oh, my goodness. This is not Sad
The
Tree Bark.
unofficial Sad Tree Bark sponsor.
Listen to that. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Moxie. Distinctively different. That's
quote-
You ain't just whistling Dixie.
To quote the great Snafu. Wow. Parker, getting things started here, the first time we've ever done this. What are we making today?
We're going to start, the grilling season off right with just burgers. We're going to have, like, grilled onions. And
I know you. You're never just as
grill-
simple as burgers.
We're going to grill, some jalapenos. So we're going to chop them up.
Here we go.
And hopefully the burgers will, and we got some bacon on right now.
Oh, look at that.
First round of bacon is up.
I thought I heard the unmistakable sounds of sizzling bacon.
The dulcet tones of bacon.
The dulcet tones of cracking bacon.
Hopefully the burgers will end up as moist as the weather is here.
Stick around. Stay tuned. This is Grilling History with the History Things podcast. I like my bacon to be a fair bit crispy. How do you like your bacon out there? Are you more the burn it up, make it black and crispy, somewhere in the middle, or
I used to be
cut it right off the pig?
Yeah, I know. I used to be pretty much kind of like medium on the bacon, and then my wife really likes almost like jerky almost bacon, as far as burnt.
Like burn it.
Yeah.
Make it unedible.
So you're crispy but not dead, right?
Yeah, like enough that I can chew it. It's crunchy. It's not real floppy like a noodle.
Well, what we're the thing that we're doing here, of course, first is we're getting the pan seasoned a little bit here with the bacon grease as well. That's going to be kind of cool.
Cool.
Also, every good recipe starts with bacon, right?
That's true.
So,
Parker, tell us a little bit about what we're cooking on here. This is not your traditional grill. My broken hoopty is over there off camera. What are we cooking with here today?
We're cooking on a Traeger grill today. They list this thing as portable. It is pretty hefty, but I get what they're talking about.
Well, I mean, it's the size of a nuclear briefcase.
It is the size of a nuclear briefcase. It was electric, like that song. It's electric.
Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie.
Yeah.
It has joined us on the inaugural expedition. We are setting off into the unknown. We are looking for
smoke alarms everywhere.
We're looking for the Northwest Passage.
For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage
of meat cooking. All right, so a couple weeks back, Parker hits me up with a text message barrage. He's very excited. He's discovered this story new to him about a particular event that occurs in the aftermath of the Battle of Antietam, one that honestly neither of us had ever heard of before. I'm still pretty much in the dark about it, but Parker's been able to do some digging, so I'll let him talk about that in a minute. But you got to imagine, if you know Parker very personally, when he sends you the artillery barrage of texts, he's
40 or
excited.
50 of them.
He's excited. And so we figured let's channel that excitement into this installment. Parker, so I know that we're coming to the atmosphere of a story that is definitely one of my favorites of all time. So, tell me how you, first of all, tell us what we're talking about, how you came to it, and then let's get into it when you're ready.
Yeah, we're going to visit one of our favorite topics, the Battle of Antietam today. We're going to be talking about a guy by the name of Major Key. His name's John Key, John J. Key. He's born in Kentucky, and he's born in Kentucky originally, and then by the time the war breaks out, the Civil War breaks out, he joins the Indiana Infantry, the 60th Indiana Infantry.
Okay.
And he works his way up through the ranks until he becomes a major. And he's a major on Henry Halleck's staff. And I want you to put a pin in that and kind of remember that because we're going to have to circle back to it.
All right.
Another thing I'm going to want you to put a pin in is his brother. His brother is a colonel, Colonel Thomas Key.
Now, real quick, can we address something? Are these, we're using the name Key, any relation to the famous family?
I do not know. So, but the other thing I want you to kind of keep in mind, too, is that Colonel Thomas Key is on the staff, just so happens to be on the staff of one General George McClellan.
So we've got Keys on the staffs of generals who don't like each other.
Yes.
Because obviously we know very famously that Henry Halleck and George McClellan just do not get along.
And you're going to want to put a pin in that part of the story, too.
We can eat a pinboard.
We're going to come back to that whole situation in not too long. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fast forward to 1862, September 17th, Battle of Antietam. Obviously, the bloodiest day in American history. Almost 23,000 people are killed, wounded, captured. We know that story. We're going to be talking about some negatives about McClellan today. And my intention of that is not to move the needle for us. I'm just stating the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Okay. So, but in order for me to tell you this story, I need to let you know what's going on in the background, the temperature of the country, things that are going on behind the scenes, okay? So, this period of about a month and a couple weeks, things are happening. McClellan is still in Sharpsburg, and he's kind of parked there for a little bit. Anyway, during this 3 weeks, a couple things happen. Lincoln, riding McClellan, pressuring him. You got to move. You got a case of slows. What's fatiguing your horses? You're not using the army for a while. I'd like to use it. That's where all those famous quips come from, right? The traditional hyperbole and all that stuff that you hear. The rhetoric, rather, not the hyperbole. Also, rather historic thing happens. On September 22nd, we get a preliminary draft of the
Emancipation
Proclamation. Wow. It's like you're familiar with this.
I've heard this one before, yeah.
I'm going to check the bacon here for just 1 second.
Oh, yeah. You got to make sure that the bacon gets checked.
Be making that bacon. Oh, look at that.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Getting good crispy.
That's a good crispy. So now's a good time for me to stop and tell you about the next part of our meat journey today.
Yes. Okay. So we've got the Maryland campaign going while Parker's getting the meat journey kind of moved along here. So obviously, single bloodiest day in history. McClellan is going to sit there. The armies are not in great shape. Both Union and Confederate armies both have been basically essentially marching and fighting up and down the Virginia Peninsula for the entirety of the spring and summer of that year, 1862, and now after this, horrible day, they're kind of whipped. Both sides are desperately needing supplies, ammunitions, food, clothing, things like that. Rest, most importantly. So before we get into that, that's kind of the atmosphere of this story. Is we're in that doldrum, after campaign. Political season is heating up. We'll get into that. So before we get back into the story, Parker, where are we in meat in the Burger Odyssey today?
Our Burger Odyssey is going to start by putting some grilled onions, some salt and pepper, butter, oil.
So you have all that just wrapped in the tin foil?
It's wrapped right in the tin foil. That way all the steam stays in and it softens up for you.
Okay, nice.
Sorry. Next thing we're going to do.
Are those jalapenos?
These are jalapenos.
Jalapenos.
We're going to go ahead and we're just going to fire these a little bit here on the grill. I've decided to put these just to use the griddle. Just
go for it.
It's nice and hot.
Shout out to all of our Trailer Park Boys fans. That's a little Ricky one for you there. Jalapenos. I know they're jalapenos. Don't come at me. Don't come at me.
Send all your emails to.
Oh, we're losing a jalapeno.
Well, you know what we need now is we need like a chalk or something to.
Yeah, a little jalapeno. Oh, that jalapeno jumped. I've never seen that happen before. We'll use a burger chalk. All right, so the patties are going down now. I'm sure you're listening to that sizzling. Parker's mic is definitely picking that up.
I made my burgers too big. Let's go. Let's sit that there, and hopefully that's a pretty enough shot for everybody. Now you'll notice these jalapenos here. By the way, you'll notice that they're starting to get char. Doesn't take them too long. So we're not gonna cook these for too terribly long, just until they get nice and blistered.
Okay.
And then we'll take them out, we'll sweat them out, cut them up.
All right.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about the next part of our story.
All right.
So next part of our story is we don't know the exact date that the statement was made, okay, because a lot of this comes from hearsay. However, we know that this story actually happened because we have eyewitness accounts, we have newspaper accounts, and we also have letters from the big man in the black hat, Abraham Lincoln himself, right? I hear he's pretty honest.
Allegedly, he did have the
pretty
nickname.
honest. He had the nickname of Honest Abe. So I'm gonna trust that all the letters he wrote about it were correct. So Henry Halleck and his executive staff are kind of just around, and they're in Sharpsburg, and there is this conversation that happens. Major Levi Turner, kind of just poses a question to an open room. And McClellan's staff is there, Halleck's staff is there. And the question is posed as this. Why was the Confederate Army not bagged, and that's the quote, bagged, that's the term that they use, not me. Why were the Rebs not bagged when they left Sharpsburg? Well, our boy Major Key decides he's going to answer this question.
Out of turn?
He just answers it. He says, that's not the game. And Major Key just says publicly, he says, that is not the game. The object is that neither army, now listen to the wording very carefully. The object is that neither army shall get much advantage over the other, that both shall be kept in the field till they are exhausted, when we will make a compromise and save slavery.
Boo, first of all.
So that's, I mean, what a
Which
dickish
key is
thing
that,
to say.
McClellan key, or is that Halleck key?
That is Halleck Key.
Okay, boo!
So, so Lincoln finds out about this, and he's pissed. He's pissed, and understandably so. And he's pissed for three major reasons. The first reason he's pissed is there is no game.
Right, this is war.
This is a war. We are in the middle of we are engaged in a civil war. We are killing people by the thousands. Bodies are stacking up. This is not a game, right?
Right.
Number two, let's just say, and some people I've read have tried to say that he meant program or plan. Like, they were just saying maybe this is a problem with semantics. Let's just say that this is a semantic issue. That never was the plan. The plan never was to just go out and get everyone killed.
I don't have a beef with the word usage of, like, that's not the game. Like,
Well,
I get that because
Lincoln did.
I know, but like we use that all the time.
Sure.
Like, like that's not the point. That's not the game. It's kind of like just a swap out for that's not the point. It's the rest of that boggles me.
So the third reason why he's messed, the third reason why he's really mad, is that how Major Key got his job. Any guesses?
His brother?
Yeah, a little bit. McClellan is the guy who Colonel Tom Key is the guy who he's on the staff of McClellan.
Yeah.
And General McClellan is the guy
right.
who writes the recommendation letter and signs off, getting Major Key his promotion. So they know each other.
Okay.
So Lincoln is thinking, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in another couple of quotes. We have this period of time. Lincoln is like, move. McClellan is like, nah, I'm all right. I'm safe. I'm good. And Lincoln is thinking, why isn't he moving? What's going on? Key knows McClellan. Has he told McClellan this? Is this something that's going on? Right. And he later will write, and I'll read you that going on, that he didn't think it was just McClellan and Key. He was under the impression there was a great number of people who was out basically who had this thought that this was just a game that we were just going to play and exhaust both of the armies. I'm going to do a little bit of food checking here, and then we're going to open up the next chapter.
All right, Parker. So we're checking the burgers here, doing a little flipping.
So let me address the elephant in the room, because some people are going to comment on the fact that I've already flipped the burger.
Oh, are there meat critics like that?
There are meat critics like that.
Is
Now,
our audience full of meat critics?
I'm going to tell you that I stand with Kent Rollins. Fantastic channel, if you're
I'm sure
interested.
he's cool. Never heard of
Fantastic.
him. We'll check him out.
He says you can flip that burger as much as you want, as long as you don't do the squishy thing.
Because that squishes out the juice.
You got it.
Now you got this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
How well do you want your burger?
About medium.
All right, we still got a little ways to go, methinks.
Medium safe. Medium well at the most.
Well, we'll just keep checking.
Because remember,
And then
my
you-
burger's
wow.
going to be the audible here, because I'm going to be making the breakfast burger. So we'll be putting cheese and bacon and the very special magical ingredient, the fried egg.
And that's one reason why we decided to stay with the grill, too, because by then you're
Yeah.
going to have the grease from the bacon on there.
Yeah, that's
You'll have
right.
this. It's going to be
Ooh, so good.
ready to go.
So good.
All right. So
word is making its way back
Oh,
to
yeah.
Lincoln. Oh, we got a
we
fire
got a
there.
flame.
Is that bad?
Not if you're Burger King.
All right, so word is making its way back to President Lincoln. Major Key has said his piece. He's spoken his mind on what he thinks the, quote, game is. Again, semantics, I personally don't have a problem just
Sure.
with using expressions like that, but they do leave room for
gets
misinterpretation, and, it gets worse. I mean, it gets worse than him being pro-slavery.
Well, when you see what he does and says with it, yeah.
All right,
It's a little- it gets a
so
little-
word's making its way back.
Yeah. So Lincoln says he wants to investigate it clearly because he's like, what's going on? So he calls up Levi Turner. No, calls him on his cell
Yeah.
phone. He just texts him, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" No, but he calls for him and he comes
Sure.
in and he interviews him. And I think it's on the 25th that he interviews. So actually, word makes it back to Washington that Major Key said that pretty quickly. That's pretty funny that it made its way back to Lincoln that quickly. So he interviews him, and he says, "What did you hear?" Now, Major Turner did not really want to throw kind of his pal out of the, under the bus too much, right? He started off by saying, I've never heard Major Key say anything that was disloyal. He is a staunch unionist. He wants to preserve the union just like you do.
Yeah, but that
However-
doesn't mean that
However-
he's an abolitionist.
Exactly.
Right.
And what he did say is he was compelled to tell the truth, and he confirmed what he said. And in fact, Lincoln learned a little bit more context of the actual quote.
By the way, who doesn't bring an iPad to your backyard barbecue?
So here's he found out a little bit more about that quote, and that
Okay.
quote is not only did he say all that stuff, but Key apparently also said, allegedly. I mean,
I'm gonna ask about that in a minute.
Well, yes. I'm
gonna ask about that in a minute.
I think I know what you're going to ask. Key said he thought the game was to, in addition to everything he said, let the war linger on indecisively until the end of Mr. Lincoln's term. Not terms, term.
Oh, he thought he'd be like a one and done?
Yeah. So this did very little, as you could imagine, to impress Mr. Lincoln.
Sure.
And so now he is with John Hay. Now, John Hay is Mr. Lincoln's... Yeah. John Hay is Mr. Lincoln's secretary, President Lincoln's secretary. And he is not a fan of General McClellan. Let's just put it that way. He's not a fan of General McClellan. He wrote in his diary that night on September 25th, and I'm going to read you again. I just going to read the quote. Last night, September 25th, the president and I were riding to Soldiers' Home. He said that he had heard of an officer who had said they did not mean to gain any decisive victory, but to keep things running on, so that the army might manage things to suit themselves. He said that he should have the matter examined. He's referring to Lincoln. He said that he should have the matter examined, and if any such language had been used, his head should go off.
Wow.
I talked a great deal about the McClellan conspiracy, but he would make no answer to anything. So props to Lincoln.
All right.
He's not buying into this conspiracy theory nonsense.
All right.
He's just he wants to win a war. He merely said, back to the quote, he merely said that McClellan, who he refers to here as MCC, McClellan was doing nothing to make himself either respected, nor feared.
When you MCC people on emails, it's when you get moving
Real
really
slow.
late.
It's a real
This
slow
is when you
email.
delay send the email.
And they get fired because you,
You
didn't
say,
send it direct.
can you send me an email after that meeting? And I
Yeah.
send it 3 weeks later.
So it is of note that John Hay, this is what I'm talking about, after the war, John Hay accuses him of being mutinous imbecile.
Oh, those are
So
deep words.
And apparently this was like in the 1880s. So this is a while after the war. He's still holding grudges. So Lincoln then sends for Major Key.
Okay.
And he's on the 27th. This takes place. And he says, remember, Lincoln's a lawyer and a pretty good one. And he handles this kind of a little bit like a deposition.
Okay.
He has John Hay in the room. And he has John Hay in the room. And he says, kind of
Hey.
has him read.
He says, hey.
Hey. He has him read kind of the transcript. Like,
Okay.
read this back for the court. And he just kind of lets him read. And then President Lincoln looks at John Key and says, is this true? Did you say this?
Parker, as you're checking the burgers, where do we get this story from? How did you come across it? Where can our listeners come to it, investigate it on their own? Like, is this something we can find in the archives, in the Library of Congress? Is this just on some random website that now we're wasting our time, not footnoted? Where can we find this? Because this is a really interesting story, and knowing that there's a hammer coming,
Yeah.
you know, it's like one of these, like, you know, we study big battles, but oftentimes we, you know, when we get into the politics of things, we get into the politics of ending slavery, and rightly so, but sometimes we forget about this, the politics of, you know, conducting the politics itself.
Well, this shows up in a couple of places.
Okay.
There's not really, it doesn't even have its own Wikipedia page.
Well, that's making me more nervous.
Right. So this is one of those minor. Major Key is a minor major. And he's the only guy who this happens to throughout the...
Hey, but where do we find it?
Well, Lincoln wrote about it. We find about it in his letters.
Okay.
We also find it in some newspapers of the day.
Okay.
Someone leaked the story to the press, and we think that it was John Hay who released it. Okay.
But so anyway, so just for our simple answer, if you're looking for this story, is it safe to say, Parker, that you can go to Lincoln's private papers, find the story in there?
Yes. I think we're almost nearing completion on those.
We're going to have to add the cheese, though.
Oh, that's good.
The sparking, the fire, and the paper towels and the grease. How safe are we right now?
Pretty safe.
Okay.
Anytime where there's meat and fire, you're liable to have something happen.
So this year with Grilling History, I'm pretty excited for this because we're going to be hanging out with Travis Shaw, possibly a cameo from the legendary Ian McDougall as well. We will be catching up with Rich Condon. That's going to be a fun one. We're going to be on a very historic battlefield, and we're going to be hanging out in a very technologically proper way for the 21st century with another one of our friends here, Miss Sarah Morgan. From Cooking with the First Ladies, Cooking with the Cauldron Girls, Cooking with the Gadget Gals. She's been doing an incredible amount of work with the Manhattan Project and everything that goes along with that, basically since we last caught up with her. So we're going to do a sort of an atomic backyard grilling. I'm excited for that one. So everybody's going to have their own little tricks, little tips, little things they do. And for me, man, one of those things is I just like to put my bacon under the cheese so the cheese forms like a melty seal over top of it. Now, when we lift these off, I'm going to be cooking up a fried egg, or I guess I'll just let Parker cook the fried eggs, since technically he's the his chef here today, the grill master, so to speak. So grill master, getting back to it. We're confirming these are the words I said. Does Major Keys, stand by it? Does he stand with some confidence?
Well, what do you think? So
Put some bass in his voice?
Lincoln has read everything to him, and he's asked him now two questions. Number one, did you say all this?
Right.
And number two, and I'm going to read the quote, are you guilty of imputing such motives to General McClellan?
Ooh. So Major Key says what?
What do you think he says?
Hell yeah.
You're absolutely right. Major Key triples down
Oh, wow.
on everything that he says, and he makes it worse because Major Key cannot keep his mouth in the closed position.
All right. Lay it on us.
To be fair, this is very terrible. It's very horrible, but at least he's honest.
Look, and I was getting ready to say, at least he's saying it like loud and proud to the man's face.
In front of Abraham Lincoln, this major that we never heard of until today decides that he's going to tell Abraham Lincoln about the virtues of slavery.
Like the positive virtues.
He says we need to keep slavery. Slavery's awesome. I think he sang songs. I'm just making that up. But yeah, I mean, he was like,
But his virtues are like positive, like
he's
why we should have
We need
it.
to keep slavery. It's icky. It's very bad.
I don't like that.
No, I don't like it at all. But he's like, we need to do it, man. And he's just going on and on. And Lincoln did one of his most Lincoln things, and this is why I love Lincoln. He just stops him, just in the middle of a rant.
He hits him with this.
He just
He goes, Major Key, I'm
Yeah.
going to stop you right there.
I have not sent for you to discuss with you the abstract question of slavery, its sacredness, or the reverse. But I am clearly of the opinion that no officer can wear shoulder straps under my commission who does not believe in the policy of winning decisive victories wherever they are to be had. You can go.
You're fired.
You'll be hearing from me.
You're fired.
Mic drop.
Was that a you're fired?
It was about a few hours later. So I want to point something else out about
Oh,
that.
so that wasn't you're fired?
It-
Who he's going to let him sweat it out?
Yeah, you'll be hearing from me. He says, you can go, sir.
Uh-oh.
You shall hear from me. He didn't answer question number 2.
Yeah, have you basically
have
been
you
putting
been
this into the
poisoning
officer's
McClellan?
mind? Yeah.
He didn't answer that. Now, whether or not he didn't just get a chance to answer it and he was just so in love
So
with
I know
slavery-
that this is something that you're going to be continuing to research. I know that we're
Yeah.
telling this story pretty early in your look into it. I know you're
Yeah.
very excited. Have you come across yet whether Key is an important subordinate in McClellan's staff? Like, do McClellan and
Not
Key
really.
interact often? So does he even
No.
have the influence to?
Well, McClellan knows
Put that
him.
into him.
McClellan knows him because he wrote that letter and signed off on it.
Sure.
He knows Thomas Key, which Thomas Key is one of McClellan's aides, right?
Oh, sorry.
So-
So this is the Halleck guy that did this.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting. There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many keys.
So
I'm like a custodian. Welcome everyone back to the 2025 Backyard Classic. We have Parker Russell here approaching the green. Let's take a look in. All right, and he's going for the scoop, the shuffle, and the delivery. Oh, excellent. Patty 1 is on the plate, and number 2 now. Oh, and the presentation. Maybe you should present it to the camera behind you so you could see it better. Yeah. You can't actually talk to the golfer on the green. Oh my, look at that. Oh, that's fantastic.
had an assist there.
And on the final shot. And incredible. And he puts that one in for birdie here at the 2025 Backyard Classic. I'm Pat McGuire. We'll see you next time. Parker, are you a golfer? How's your golf game?
I'm a mini golfer.
You're a mini golfer? That's true. We did. Oh, we're almost due for our annual summer classic at the Adventure Place down the street there. Dude, I smoked you guys last time we played. I cannot wait to defend the title. We have actual belts.
That's right.
All right.
We have the belts.
Look
now.
for invites. We're putting the titles on the line. So Lincoln has said now, you can go. You'll be
You'll
hearing,
be hearing from me.
So where does Major Key go? Back to a headquarters, a barracks, a private room?
I think he goes back to Halleck.
Okay, so he goes
think
back to the War Department potentially?
The next day. Now, the orders are signed September 27th, but I believe they're delivered the next morning.
Of October?
Of September.
Of September. Okay.
And it's he accompanies this letter with Special Orders 144.
Okay. So
Okay.
this is before Lincoln goes out to
Yeah.
Sharpsburg to
Oh, yeah.
basically say, get moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is in a communique that just kind of goes from D.C. out to Sharpsburg.
Okay.
I guess. And it's dated the day that he spoke to Major Key.
All right.
And it's his dismissal. And this is what Lincoln writes. In my view, it is wholly inadmissible for any gentleman holding a military commission from the United States to utter such sentiments as Major Key is within a packet of documents proved to have done. Therefore, let Major John J. Key be forthwith dismissed from the military service of the United States.
You're fired. Hold on. Let me do my better Vince McMahon impression. You're fired.
Yeah. So throughout the entire Civil War, we got a lot of majors, a lot of captains, a lot of
Yeah.
privates, a lot of officers in general, everybody.
Oh, for sure.
He's the only guy in the history of the Union, within the conflict, who is dismissed,
Just like summarily dismissed.
for disloyalty.
That's a pretty big claim. Are you sure of it? Are you ready to back it up today, or do you want to maybe
If
say
anyone can find something else, please let me know.
they're going to? Our listeners, you know these
That's
people.
fine.
They're
I would love-
savages.
I would love the education.
Y'all are savages.
But I'm telling you, from everything that I've heard and everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, he's
All right.
the only person who ever received a dismissal based upon a disloyal statement.
What a bastard.
Well, Major Key is not happy either about it, and
Well,
he keeps sending letters.
Not like he can do much about it.
So Major Key's not really impressed about this. He keeps sending Lincoln letters, a bunch of letters.
Not
Unfortunately,
love letters.
No. Unfortunately, those letters have been lost to history. The only reason why we know that those letters exist is because Lincoln says they exist. Lincoln finally writes back.
He says, "Don't you get it? I fired your ass."
Well, he actually, this is a really interesting letter. And it's dated November 24th, 1862. A bundle of letters, this is Abraham Lincoln writing. A bundle of letters, including one from yourself, was early last week handed to me by General Halleck. As I understood at your request, I sincerely sympathize with you in the death of your brave and noble son. During that time, between the dismissal and this letter, he's had a son who is died. Now, I've been looking for where that son died, and I can't find which battle he was killed in. All I know is that his son was wounded and then later died.
Oh, okay. Because I was saying he could be a young son, brave at home, being the man of the house.
It could be, but I believe I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The answer is I'm not sure where that is. I have not found that information.
By the way, speaking to the Mid-Atlantic Maryland forecast,
Here we go.
we had rain this morning. We had cloudy skies forecasted all day. We had absolutely no rain in the forecast after 12 p.m. today, so noon. It is pouring right now.
Yeah.
It's friggin' pouring. So again, you have a choice, my grilling warriors, my grill masters out there. You can either pack it in or figure it out.
That's why
Lucky
my hair
for
is
us.
so nasty. Look at this thing.
Yeah,
It's like a
I don't
moss.
judge hair, bro. I'm bald.
All right.
But we have we figured it out. We chose to be fighters this year. We're hoping that in June's installment for Travis that the weather is significantly better. I just bumped my mic, man. What a terrible vibe. So anyway, let's get back into it here.
All
Let's
right.
start winding down the story of Mr. Key.
John J. Key. In regards, this is Abraham Lincoln writing. In regards to my dismissal of yourself from the military service, it seems to me you misunderstand me. I did not charge or intend to charge you with disloyalty. I had been brought to fear that there was a class of officers in the Army, not very inconsiderable in numbers, who were playing a game to not beat the enemy when they could, on some peculiar notion as to the proper way of saving the Union. And when you were proved to me in your own presence to have avowed yourself in favor of that quote-unquote game, and he wrote quote-unquote, I mean, he did the quotation marks, and did not attempt to controvert that proof, I dismissed you as an example and a warning to that supposed class. I bear you no ill will, and I regret that I could not have made the example without wounding you personally. But can I now, in view of the public interest, restore you to the service, by which the Army would understand that I endorse and approve that game myself? If there was any doubt of your having made the avowal, the case would be different. But when it was proved to me, in your presence, you did not deny or attempt to deny it, but confirmed it in my mind by attempting to sustain the position by argument. So he was vociferously arguing that he did say it.
Right.
I am really sorry for the pain this case gives you, but I do not see how, consistently with duty, I can change it. Yours, Abraham Lincoln. Now, on that envelope, apparently, that it was that we have the record in,
It said
it was
GFY.
it
Go.
said- yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It says I can. It's written
just
in.
kidding.
I know it's written kind of like in a shorthand half sentence.
Yeah.
It says I cannot find sufficient ground to change the conclusion therein arrived at. So he's just like on the outside of the envelope, just like
Short
making
answer.
mental notes.
Short
Yeah.
answer, no.
Now, and 2 years later, Lincoln is talking again to John Hay. I almost said John Jay. Wrong war. 2 years later, he's talking to John Hay, his secretary, and he says, I dismissed Major Key for his silly, treasonable talk because I feared it was staff talk and I wanted an example.
Makes sense.
Now, Major Key,
Makes sense.
Major Key is actually buried pretty local to us here. If you're familiar with Maryland at all, it's right down 355. You take Wisconsin Avenue down to Holyrood Cemetery, and that's where he's buried.
Wow.
So he's buried here from Indiana.
So what does he do after the war?
I believe he becomes a judge.
Okay. He's like, I'll show you what justice is.
Yes. But that's the story of John Key. He lives to about 1886, I want to say.
All right.
But that is the story of a major key, minor major.
So I've never heard of this, summary firing taking place in the aftermath of the Maryland campaign. It's really fascinating, the story. It makes sense on so many levels, especially when you read these quotes. So again, we can find these in Lincoln's personal letters, things like that.
Letters, yep.
One of the details from one of the letters you read earlier that I really liked that might have gone unnoticed by a lot of people was when he said they were riding to the soldiers' home. And a lot of people forget that the Lincolns came to Washington as a grieving family and spent a lot of time, especially in the early presidency, not living in the White House. They had this, what you can now go visit today as Lincoln's Cottage.
Yeah.
A private residence was basically loaned to them so they could have a quieter, away from the hustle and bustle of the actual political scene, several blocks from the White House, but it was right next to the old soldiers' home.
That's right.
So it's just funny that, right there you read that in the letter and I could kind of pick that up. So, Parker, we're getting ready to cook a fried egg.
Yes.
So we're going to make it a little runny, a little sunny side up action. Can you do a little over medium? Tell me if I could just get my yolk a little runny. Oh, wow. All right, now show that to the camera there. Wow, listen to that rain coming down.
I wonder if our mics can pick the My grilled onions here.
Okay.
Looks like we have a success. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull some of these out.
I mean, yeah, they look super ready, like they're starting to melt. That's like a good onion. Look at that. Oh my goodness, look at that. Cheers.
Cheers.
Initial episode of Grilling History, inaugural episode.
Yeah, there we go.
Excited to kick off the summer. Happy summer of 2025, everyone. We look forward to catching up with you in June with the legendary Travis Shaw. We'll see who else kicks it around. And Parker, you take a bite yet?
Not
Let's
yet.
take bites.
All right.
All right, this is it for the inaugural edition of Grilling History. Catch up with us next month as we take a field trip down to Virginia to hang out with Travis Shaw and talk more American War of Independence. I'm Pat McGuire. This is Parker Russell, just reminding you that we are the boys that grilled up all the meat again.